One of the country's most well-known senators being snubbed by members of her own party in her own state. In her sixth bid now for re-election, Senator Dianne Feinstein failed to win the endorsement of the California Democratic Party at its state convention over the weekend. My next guest made an impassioned argument that it was time for a new generation of leadership. Kevin De Leon is currently a state senator running against Feinstein in California. And this weekend, he received 54% of the vote to Feinstein's 37%. Neither candidate, though, reached the 60-vote threshold for an endorsement. Good to have you with us here.
Hi, Erica. Thank you very much for having me here today.
As we know, Dianne Feinstein still heavily favored to win in November. In fact, in the latest polling, you're nearly 30 points behind her. She started the year with $10 million in the bank. You had just over $300,000. Are you offering Democrats a viable campaign at this point?
Well, first and foremost, let me say that I respect very much Senator Feinstein. I respect her service and her commitment to our great state, California. But I think a lot of folks, and I want to be very clear, Erica, I think a lot of folks think I'm running against Senator Dianne Feinstein. I think those have been the national headlines. But the point I'd like to make is that I think there's so many Californians, millions of Californians, whether they're young students, college students, whether they're farm workers, whether they're housekeepers, whether they're union workers, teachers, and nurses. They want a different voice in Washington. They want a voice that's going to represent them. And I think they're tired of the status quo in Washington, D.C., because quite frankly, it's not working for them. So I think what happened during the course of the convention just this past Saturday was exhilarating, and I think it sent a very strong message across the nation that many Democrats want a different type of voice in Washington, D.C.
Is that Democrats just in California? Because obviously you're well acquainted with the voters in California. Or do you think there needs to be change across the board? Are we talking about Chuck Schumer, about Nancy Pelosi here too?
Well, I think, we do have great leaders in Washington, but I do want to say this, that the dysfunction is very deep in Washington, D.C. There's no doubt about it. I think there's a lot of Democrats, I can speak for California only, folks want health care for all. They want a voice that's strong on the issue of climate change. They want the right to have their children to breathe clean air and drink clean water. And on the issue of immigration, because this is the issue that I have been forcefully out in front, they want a pathway to citizenship for the millions of hardworking mothers and fathers who have spent so many years in this country without the ability to normalize their legal status. So they want a voice of change in Washington, D.C. Again, I do respect very much Senator Feinstein, but I think it's time to usher in a new generation of leadership for all of California.
As you point out, you say you have great respect for Senator Feinstein. You said over the weekend, telling the convention, quote, real leadership, moral clarity is always doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. It should never take a primary challenge for California's leadership to stand up for California values. You did not mention her by name, but was that directly about Senator Feinstein? And if so, where do you feel that she has not shown real leadership and moral clarity?
Well, Erica, let me say that there is a clear contrast, without question, on our values and what we do if given an opportunity to move agenda forcefully that impacts the human condition for all Californians, regardless of who you are and regardless of where you come from. On the issue of climate change, I don't believe that we need someone on the sidelines, but we need someone forcefully on the front lines. On the issue of Dreamers as well, the young DACA students, we need someone forcefully moving this issue because California is home to the largest number of DACA students nationwide. When it comes to the issue of criminal justice as well as reformative justice for young men and women, but particularly young men, I'd never vote to allow 13-year-olds to be prosecuted as adults. That's not part of my DNA. It's how we use our political capital when we're in the positions of power to improve the human condition for all individuals. And lastly, I'd say, is I'd never support federal agents snooping, spying on American citizens without a judicial warrant. That's un-American, and that's not who we are. Those are not our values in a great state like California.
Real quickly before I let you go, you've also said that voters will always know where you stand, implying that you will be towing that party line. But are there issues that you feel you could reach across the aisle and work with Republicans on?
Erica, that's a very good question because I'm not just the state senator in California. I'm actually the leader of the California State Senate. It's a bipartisan body. The majority are Democrats, and I have worked closely with Republicans to find common ground to move forward major policies, groundworking policies in the sixth largest economy in the entire world. Policies such as cap and trade, which is rather arcane and complex, but dealing with the price of carbon. Issues of investments in our roads, our bridges, our highways, retrofitting our crumbling bridges, infrastructure to grow the economy, put people to work. This is where I had to deal just last year with Republicans to secure Republican votes. So I have successfully worked with Republicans and accomplished major policies that has grown this economy. That's a lot different than actually confirming Republican Trump appointees in Washington, D.C. that are currently dismantling the federal government as we know it today. So I do have the ability, I have the proven track record working across the aisle with Republicans.
We will be watching what happens there in the state of California. Kevin De Leon, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Erica, thank you very much. Thank you.